Oh man, he bummed out every time I talk about the Dolphins just because of what they were last year versus just how different things look for this team this year. But um, it's a matchup that could be winnable. I know it's on the road for them. Maybe they got a little bit of time, extra time off. I don't know. What do you think about this one? Matchup that matters. What do you got, Carmen?
Yeah, I think a lot of it still comes down to this Dolphins offensive line. I think in general, this has kind of been one of the things that's been exposed by Tua's injury that obviously it's the lack of kind of planning if Tua were to go down at the quarterback position in particular, but it also kind of exposed the fact that the team didn't do enough to fortify the offensive line and sustain some of the injuries that they were inevitably going to have along that offensive line to protect whoever it was, whether it was Tua or somebody else. And that's where I need to see a little bit of improvement. And that's what I think can be a catalyst for this offense on top of what, Snoop can do or Snoop Huntley can do. The Dolphins have the fewest gains of 20 or more yards or plays of 20 or more yards on offense. They have just
Right.
12 on the season. But this Indianapolis Colts defensive line ranks 27th in total pressures and only has 56 hurries. It tied for 21st with the Cowboys in sacks with 13. So they haven't been extraordinarily effective either. And you think, all right, in the way that we talk about strength on strength, this is kind of two units that are struggling for both the Dolphins and for the Colts. And who's going to get the better of that? And how much can that be a catalyst for their team being effective? And I think that that's kind of what it comes down to in this game where both teams are producing at the level that you would want them to. And you're right. I feel so bad for the Dolphins and for Dolphins fans in general because the season started out so promising and yeah.
Yeah, I'm specifically interested in this one because it looks like Anthony Richardson's going to start, right? And it
Right.
looks like a matchup where they will have the opportunity in Indianapolis, I'm saying, to attack the Dolphins deep down the field because the Dolphins are fourth worst in the NFL at completions of 10 or more. Sorry, this is fourth in the NFL. I'm reading my own chicken scratch here. They've given up 10 completions of 20 yards or more. That's fourth worst in the NFL. That's the way you're supposed to say that, Trev. And when you look at Anthony Richardson, a lot of his best plays are the arm strength. We've seen the crazy throws deep down the field. Alec Pierce has been incredible over the last couple of weeks at connecting with whether it's been Joe Flacco or Anthony Richardson or whoever it's been. This is just an opportunity where clearly this is a way to unleash the arm strength of Anthony Richardson and really hit the defense over the top, especially when you continue to run the ball very well. We know the Colts have one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line this season. So you run the ball enough, you get a little bit of dual threat with Anthony Richardson. You're keeping guys in to spy, whether it's a safety or a linebacker. There's less guys in deep coverage. Boom. That's when you hit them over the top. And I think that it's a matchup where the Colts can continue to see that success. They're top 10, if not top 5 in a lot of those categories when it comes to those deep shots down the field, receiving grade, passing grade, all that kinds of stuff. So completion percentage is a little bit lower. But again, that's kind of a Richardson thing. You would think of that with him having a lower completion percentage anyway. So it's hard to necessarily say, I'm going to take the last couple of weeks of statistics with Joe Flacco and translate them into this week because you do have Anthony Richardson in there now. But on Miami's side of things, that has been a constant for them throughout the season, is really struggling with those deep passes. And with Richardson back in there and his arm talent, you could see a lot more of them. What's the plus factor for you here?
Yeah, well, those are just lower completion percentage throws when you're throwing that deep down the field. But somebody who's connecting on those very well, it goes very much along with what you were just saying, is Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce leads the league in yards per reception. 28.31 yards per reception is his average. That is absolutely incredible. We are not talking about Alec Pierce enough, quite frankly. On 20 plus yard throws, he ranks first in with 6 catches, 295 total yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, which ranks tied for fourth in the league. So this is something that he's just been incredible at. It is the reason for the production as far as the Indianapolis Colts offense goes. And this is something that marries up very well with the strength of Anthony Richardson, which you were just talking about. And that's pushing the ball down the field, airing the ball out, and connecting and getting these chunk plays that really puts points on the board very quickly for Indianapolis. And especially if you do that early on in the game, you can put your opponent on its heels. And we've seen the Colts be successful when Anthony Richardson can connect deep down the field. So in order to do that, his man is going to be Alec Pierce. And how effective they are together with Anthony Richardson coming back is going to be a huge factor in if the Colts can pull this one out.
This feels like a massive obvious, but you mentioned how much the Dolphins offense has really struggled with production and explosives and everything like that. Tyreek Hill's the X factor here for me because I feel like he always has to be with the Dolphins in its current state. When you look at Tyreek Hill, receiving grade, yards per route run, yards per game, all at career lows this year. Now, of course, he doesn't have a great quarterback throwing in the ball. When we went from Patrick Mahomes to, Tua Tagovailoa, certainly in Mike McDaniel's offense as well. And it's just been explosive years, one after the other. He was completely unguardable over the last 2 years. And I think he still has that talent to him, but it's harder to get him the football. When you look at his average depth of target, it's almost at a career high. So I think it might be time to really start to lower his average depth of target and try to allow his speed to really win and create throwing windows off the line of scrimmage with shorter throws, trying to make him a yards after catch guy instead of a, hey, I can get open, deep type of a player. I know that goes into their offensive philosophy, but very clearly 6 weeks into the season, it's not working for them. So to me, he's the plus factor. But if the Dolphins can use him in a different way, let's lower that average depth of target. Let's try to get those yards per route run up. Let's try to get the yards after catch up and see what we can do with that speed, because you cannot be wasting it the way that they have just not been able to connect with Tyreek Hill over the last couple of weeks, certainly since Tua has been out. So I think a little bit of a shift in an offensive philosophy is due for the Miami Dolphins if they want to win this football game on the road.